What's going on, Reef Builders? I'm Jake Adams. It is a dark, dreary, and rainy day here in Colorado, but that is the perfect weather to enjoy aquariums indoors. So I thought it would be a great opportunity for me to start filling you guys in on what's been happening here at the studio. We're going to, through a series of videos, go through a lot of the systems here, and I'm going to give you updates on the fish, the corals, and the displays one by one. And the focus of today's video is a follow-up on the legendary order of fish that I received, just about 3 weeks ago. And you know, when you get new fish, especially fresh wild fish, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, but I have been very lucky. This batch of fish has been a dream because they've just eaten well, they've gotten along very well, and no diseases. I've been watching everything thoroughly. And so yeah, it's definitely time to show you how these fish are doing. They're doing really well, as you can tell by the smile on my face. So I'm sitting in front of the Mode retail rack system, and for those of you that haven't seen some of the previous videos, I'm going to give you just kind of a short overview of this system and how I'm running it and how it's doing. So let's take a look at some of the new fish that I'm enjoying here at the Reef Builder Studio. So here's just a quick sneak peek of the entire studio, but I'm going to bring it back around to the Mode retail rack system. So I want to tell you a little bit more about this, like I said, as a refresher. So this system holds about 200 gallons. Each of these racks right here is 4 feet long and holds about 40 gallons. The entire system is just under 200 gallons total. It's high clarity glass all around, and for the underside here, I've kind of modified it quite a bit. So we have an automatic filter roll, which is ready to get replaced. I have a lot of biomedia here in the bottom, which is circulating water around just to keep any kind of detritus in suspension, and also to get a lot more water flow on the biomedia here in the back. And I'm using a Tunzi Dock protein skimmer, a controllable DC skimmer, to clean the water of this aquarium. And finally, we have a Vectra L1 that is driving everything inside these aquariums. So one thing I want to point out is I don't have anything like a wet dry trickle filter. I only have a bunch of assorted like ceramic biomedias in here, and that's what the power head is for, just kind of circulate around there. But I have a lot more fish than I've ever had in these systems. I've got clownfish, mollies, tangs, a handful of fancy angelfish, and up here some more tangs and some more assorted fish. So I had fish in the system for 4 or 5 months before I ever got these fish. But since I wanted to feed them a lot more than I had before, I'm using one of my trusty old products here, the Fritzzyme number 9. This is a biological booster, not so much for starting up your tank. Fritzzyme or Turbo Start is kind of the product for that. But I've been using this particular product specifically just to fill in any gap that my bacterial filter hasn't quite made up. Because when these fish came in, I really wanted to make sure that they had plenty to eat. So I know that you're ready to see some fish. So let's just start from the bottom and go to the top and see what kind of fish I'm enjoying currently. So this particular side of the system right here is clownfish, again with the mollies. And in this particular rack, I have a couple purple tangs. These are one of my favorite, one of the first exotic fish I ever had as a kid. You know, the $100 price at the time was a lot for someone to take on. But I have a couple purple tangs in here, and I've already moved one into another system. And this is one of those new Madagascar Damselfish. The two that are in here are actually staying quite dark, probably because they're fighting, but the one up above is actually doing a lot better. So a lot of these tangs are actually going to be earmarked for use in other systems here pretty shortly. There we go. So I got the trusty Tomini tang, and the purple tang, and these are going to be used in a lot of the other displays to help with the algae growth. So again, the bottom rack is not super exciting, that bottom row. Some clownfish, some mollies, some purple tangs, but it's when we move into the center section that we really start to see some really, really cool fish, especially that tiger angelfish. So all right, so I have a lot of different mollies in here, kind of to act as dither fish. I've recently added some orange sailfin mollies to the mix to help for being dithers. And for saltwater people, you might not know so much about dither fish, but they're often used to help other fish feel comfortable in freshwater tanks because they're not very smart, so they'll just swim out in the open no matter what. Here's a better look at that Madagascar Damselfish. It's almost all white with a couple black spots and a kind of a blue spot at the base of its tail. Really, really cool, undescribed species. So it's really neat to have a few of these, and I can't wait to get them in a system where they can really, really shine. Who else do we have in here? Now let me go back and find that gem tang. All right, so here's the gem tang, and I actually had 4 gem tangs in here to start, but after just a couple days, it was obvious that there was a pecking order of sorts. So I've split up all the gem tangs, and what I'm going to do is fatten them all up separately and then put them all in a large system with lots of hiding places so they can eventually get along and set up their pecking order. Okay, we might as well start with this guy. So this is a tiger angelfish. I know you're not supposed to name fish, but since he's a tiger, I thought I would name him Shere Khan after the Jungle Book movies. He's just got so much attitude, but he's just a beautiful, beautiful fish. He's been fat, stayed fat the entire time that I've had him. It's funny because I don't feed that much frozen food, and he's not really into it. He really loves pellets. He loves a little bit of flake food, and he's actually just been a dream fish here. When I first received him, someone asked me if I was excited, and I'm like, I'll be excited in a month when he's still alive and happy and healthy and eating really well, because this group of fish can be somewhat notorious for settling into captive life. And now I already know that some of you are looking at this beautiful Regal Angelfish in the back. And what's interesting about this guy is not only is he just a beautiful, beautiful fish, but he's probably one of the first Regal Angelfish to be collected in Madagascar. So he's a Western Indian Ocean style Regal Angelfish with that yellow belly. And this guy, although he's a little bit shy, he eats really well, eats pellets, eats flakes, and I have a lot of lights on these guys, so they're being just a little bit shy. I haven't fed him yet, but we'll definitely do a little bit of feeding here in a little bit. So yeah, this is actually the first Regal Angelfish that I've ever owned, and it's kind of been a dream, to be honest. Like this guy, along with the tiger angelfish, that's just been super, super great residents here at the studio. They eat anything I put in the tank. They've got lots of room to swim. They don't fight with each other at all. I've just got peace and harmony here in the aquarium systems, in the fish system at the Reef Aquarium Studio. Here in the top row of the fish system is where I've kept a lot more of the smaller fish. So we've got 1 gem tang in each of the compartments. I'm trying to get everybody fattened up. There's 1 gem tang, there's a 2nd gem tang, and there's a 3rd gem tang running around right there, if I can get a focus. Then the other group of fish that you'll find here in this particular system is I've got a pair of each of the color of storm clownfish from Sea and Reef Aquaculture. These are going to be destined for a future system. I want to put 1 in each of the tanks with some anemones. So we've got the orange storm over here. I love this mocha storm. He's got amazing pattern, just those dark spots on his back. And then moving over here is the black storm. Come on, buddy. There he is. There he is. There he is. So the black storms, this is the what started off the whole storm, I guess, lineage. And man, they're just really bright and bold, starkly colored fish. Finally, this group right here in this tank, I've got 6 Sunburst Anthias that are doing super well. These are the only 6 that I got. So that's the first Anthias here at the Reef Builder Studio. And you'll see swimming around, there's a couple of flash harasses, and these are the rare half-banded flash harass. We've got 1 female and hopefully 1 young male right there. Unfortunately, the big male that I received, he must have jumped out when I was feeding, because this tank is completely covered. So I looked in here one day and I didn't find him, and I found him outside the tank hours after I was looking. And it's just one of the things I just don't like about wrasses, man. They'll jump out on a dime. So, but at least I have a couple. They're doing well, eating flake, eating pellets, eating everything. And I think the last fish that I haven't shown you is this brilliant yellow Scopus tang. I mean, this thing is so yellow, you would be forgiven for thinking that it was a yellow tang, but you can tell by some of the darkness in the eyes towards the tail, and not showing up on video so much is a very subtle blue edge to the dorsal fin. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this fish grows up, if he grows up to be a big Scopus tang and retains so much of that yellow coloration. So he was probably one of the skinniest fish that I got here when he arrived. So still working on fattening him up. I feed all these fish a ridiculous amount of food, and right now I'm basically managing all those nutrients by very generous, nearly 50% water changes every day. So one of the reasons that all the fish are super active right now is because it's almost like 11 o'clock right now in the morning, and normally I would have fed these guys at least twice by now. So everybody is out and about, ready for breakfast. And I've mentioned many times that I don't feed frozen food. I just feel like it's super rich. Frozen food, I think, should be really reserved for fattening up new fish, for conditioning fish that you're breeding, or in my case, special occasions like holidays or when I'm just feeling happy. So my fish don't really experience frozen food more than, like, let's say 2-3 times a month at most, and I might not feed them at all. So what do I feed? I'm a big fan, big fan of the Piscine Energetics pellets. I've actually put the pellets here in a flake jar, just because it's a lot easier to grab than the packets that they have. So Piscine Energetics is the food that the conspicuous angelfish was raised on, and they use a lot of fresh mysis shrimp in the ingredients for these pellets. So let's feed the fish. Let's feed the fish. I'm sure you guys are anxious to see these guys eating and doing well, so it's time to serve them up their breakfast. All the fish know it's feeding time when I open up the lids. It does a specific bump against the glass, and then everybody gets super excited. And I always feed just on one side of the aquarium, so let's give that a try. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. Watch that tiger angelfish just absolutely destroy these pellets. It's such a pleasure. And that's actually a rare sight. Seeing that Regal Angelfish come up for food. That guy, so what's interesting is all the pellets will actually make their way over to one end of the tank, kind of like in a whirlpool, right behind there. So they'll come and get their pellets, and then they go over there and kind of wait for them to kind of accumulate a little bit more. So, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in this video. The only thing that is more fun than having these fish and having the studio and playing with all these aquariums is having a reason to share them with you. So I'm not just a crazy person with a 12.5 reef tanks to myself. But it's been really fun sharing with you the fish quarantine system, the fish holding system. If you have any questions about general fish husbandry, from quarantining to feeding, to filtration, go ahead and hit me up in the comments. If you enjoy this video, give it a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe, because the weather here in Colorado is still pretty cold and dreary, so I'm going to be spending a lot of time indoors focusing on these reef tanks and fish tanks, and have a lot more to show you guys. So thanks again for tuning in to this video update on the new fish here at the studio, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.